Well, here we are again, folks. Hard to believe, but the offseason has come and gone, and here we are stepping into the regular season of the Aberdeen Wings. And I've got a head coach, Scott Langer, of course, with me here. Coach, before we get into the hockey nuts and bolts, how was your summer? I know there's never really an off season for you guys, but did you get a chance to do anything fun and maybe spend a little time relaxing with the family?
Yeah, that was probably about it. It was just hanging with the family when I could on the weekends, so there wasn't much downtime. You know, we had to have a later main camp this year with some scheduling conflicts there in Fargo, so that just extended, the work, during the course of the summer. So, but, I took as much time just to, be around the kids and stuff, and that's fine. I mean, this league, there isn't much off time with the amount of free agents you have to try to pick up to fill your roster and all that fun stuff.
Without a doubt. Speaking of camp, and how things have gone once the boys got back here in town, and we'll get to the exhibition games here in just a moment, but how are you feeling about this squad right now and the guys that you have in this locker room? Are they looking the way you want them to look as you and Coach Hershot kind of, are rolling through practices and two-a-days and different things like that? Are you seeing the work ethic and the talent that you were hoping for? Yeah,
I mean, it's been a highly competitive couple weeks, that's for sure. Guys battling for spots and us having to kind of get down to numbers. But I mean, it's been a good group. They're hard-working guys. They're good human beings, which is a great start. I mean, you're not going to know a whole lot about your team until you get punched in the face. And now it's time we play for points, and that's a whole different beast. So getting to see our guys in that kind of situation is kind of what I'm looking for.
Well, and like I said, I wanted to touch on the preseason games because, I mean, it's hard to replicate game situations in practice. You want to see if they're able to put it all together, so to speak. And you had two teams that you saw in the preseason, and strung together some wins, and some really timely goals. And it seemed like there were a lot of good scoring chances. There were a lot of things that I saw in the four games that that really looked pretty positive. And it might be along the same lines of what you've seen in practice, but again, what were your thoughts on playing Estevan and playing Watertown in the preseason?
Well, I mean, it was really good just because, in the past we've had a really short exhibition season to prepare for the showcase. So this year having 4 games was great. I thought, each game we got better. It allowed us to make some mistakes and correct them, live, and I thought that was really good. But yeah, I think our guys played really hard. There was a couple periods there that we didn't, but it allowed us to fix it and have them understand, that we're going to be a 60-minute working hockey team, not a 40 or a 20. But yeah, I mean, you've seen good things. You've seen, especially the last game, I think everything was kind of put together. We had a really good game, great second period. But yeah, I mean, I just think we're always going to be a work in progress. But again, it's a good group in here. We just need to be tested.
And Watertown, it's funny because I talked to a handful of people there in Watertown, from Watertown, on ice staff, off ice staff, whatever, that were like, this is not the same team that we saw a week ago. Like they seem to be amped up, and there was a level of intensity. Do you feel like that's a rivalry in the making? Do you think that's maybe part of why it had, we saw a fight, we saw a bunch of tussles, we saw stuff like that, and a lot of the Watertown fans and people that I know over there and stuff said that was not the case. They didn't play with that level of intensity the week prior in their other exhibition game. And in my mind, I thought, well, maybe they're just like, all right, this is an in-state thing. We're going to get after these guys. And you got to love a good rivalry, They're a lot of fun in a lot of ways, and everybody gets amped up for them. Do you feel like, leaving Watertown and then coming back over to the Odie, that maybe there was some of that?
Well, I think there's going to be, especially with the amount of fans that we travel with. I think as soon as we start taking over their building a little bit, it's going to create that, you know, and then them coming here with their group. I think it's going to be great for the division. It's going to be great for us, and certainly Watertown, who's doing a great job filling their facility. So I just think, you know, obviously they were amped up to play us. So I'm thinking that, you know, that's what they're trying to motivate their team with against us. So, you know, when we see them, next week, you know, we have to expect the kind of the same brand of hockey coming from them, because I'm sure Coach Curley is making it a rivalry. So if so, we'll just go along with it.
Well, and they struggled a bit against Bismarck this last weekend. Of course, the Wings were off, but there were, I believe, 14 different games across the NAHL that were played. Your first regular season games, of course, are going to be in the showcase. You see Chippewa, you see the Northeastern, the Generals, and El Paso. And 3 games for the showcase, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. But first, let's talk a little bit about the showcase importance. And I feel like every year we talk about this, but maybe there's somebody that hasn't ever heard it or ever seen it. But it is a really big event when all the teams in the division can come to one place and play each other, and you get all these scouts and all these coaches that are watching and seeing all of these hockey players compete at a pretty high level. What does the importance mean to you?
Winning. I mean, it's for us, again, we didn't have the luxury of playing any home games prior to the showcase. I thought we were going to this year, but we didn't. So that's kind of our first thing. I mean, the guys have to keep everything in perspective. I mean, it's still a hockey rink, and it's the game is about taking points, and all that doesn't change. There's just some more eyes on you, and you know, once you start making it about yourself and worried about yourself and scouts and all that stuff, that's when things go south real quick for your game. And then obviously, if your game's not good, the team's game's not going to be good. So, you know, for me, it's having to try to get out of there with some points and not to fall behind in your division, because it's a hard division as it is to make up ground and to stay on top. So, I mean, we're playing some good teams. Watched Chippewa over the weekend. Very, very skilled, skate really well. You know, I think they won both on the weekend. You know, Northeast has a good club there, and then, you know, El Paso split over the weekend, and you know, they're always a tough opponent.
It'll be interesting, that's for sure. You know, the 3, you know, in years past, forever, it's always been 4 games. But this year it's 3 games instead of the 4. Do you like that? Is it nice to have that Friday off, or would you prefer to play the 4 games?
No, I think it has to be 3 games, but I think it has to be 3 in a row and out, and limit your time at the showcase. I thought at the beginning, I thought that was what was going to happen, where everybody was going to go down to 3 games, which I think 4 games in 4 days at the junior level is just not conducive to anything. It's not good for the players. It's not good for anybody. So 3 is great, but somehow we got an off day on Friday. I wish we would just play the 3 and go out, but you know, that's the schedule, so that's what we'll do.
Yeah, that's all you can do. So, you know, in regard to the showcase, it is, as we talked about, it's a big event. There's all kinds of traffic, and it's not just the NAHL. There, you know, there's other leagues, and the NAP is there, and you've got people just coming and going and all over the place. A lot of activity, and on top of that, you add to it kind of weird schedules. You know, when you have a 9:45 game and a 1:30 in the afternoon and a 7 o'clock game, and you have these different times and all these different things going on, do you address the players a little bit and try to get them to understand a little bit about what it's like and how they need to prepare and be ready for it, or is that something that you just kind of leave up to them?
No, I think we talk about it, but you know, we make it a structured event for our team. You know, there's we have everything planned out already. You know, when they're going to eat, where they're going to be, and I think that's a big thing to manage yourself when you're at something like that, especially how we go from a 7 to a 1 to a 9. that's a hard turnaround. You know, junior teams aren't used to playing at 1 in the afternoon or 9 in the morning. So I think we have to make sure that our guys are managing their bodies, and we can talk about that as a team, but our first focus right now is Chippewa at 7 o'clock.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned it. Northeast, Chippewa, El Paso, all of them, good quality hockey teams, and that is generally the case all throughout the North American League. What do you see as some keys? And like you said, the focus right now is Chippewa, but then you turn around the next day and you've got another team to play. It's hard to prepare as far as film goes and all that kind of stuff for those kinds of things. So I would imagine, like we often talk about, the focus really is on this group, on the guys in this locker room. What are you looking for? What do you see as some keys?
Well, I think they have to stick to their structure and not get out of their structure. Do what we've been working on here for the last 20 practices and 4 exhibition games, and to be excited to play and play with some excitement. Obviously it's non-negotiable to be hardworking, so we don't really need to talk about that. If they're not, then we're not going to have any success. So we need to be better against teams utilizing our energy level, and we have to be excited to play the games.
Well, it was interesting. During the exhibition games, it seemed to me that your team got better as the game went along. And I'm not going to say that the other teams maybe fell off a little bit, but it just seemed like you guys continued to improve. And to me, that was, part of that was, endurance. Part of it was, a work ethic, whatever. But it just seemed like they continued to improve the later in the games, and that's usually a pretty good sign. Coach, I won't keep you any longer. I know as we talked about, we're headed to Blaine, Minnesota, and we'll have more details on the times and the rinks and all those kinds of things coming up in just a bit here. But, a lot to prepare for sure, so I won't keep you any longer. But I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jay.
All right, folks, Aberdeen Wings heading over to Blaine to the Showcase, one of the biggest events on ice. Sometimes it might be considered the biggest, but I always think the championship game is. But anyway, that'll do it with our coach portion. We'll have a player joining us here in just a little bit here on Wings Weekly.
Pro Ag Supply leads the game with Channel Seed, liquid fertilizer, and tanks. For over 40 years, we've grown lasting relationships in the region, with our family partnering with your family. So whether it's game day or planting day, Pro Ag Supply and Channel Seed are by your side. Pro Ag Supply.
L&O Transport and Farm wants you. They're currently hiring Class A CDL truck drivers and farm operators. Experience preferred, but not necessary. L&O offers great benefits like a 401k, 100% health, and year-end bonuses. Pay depends on experience, but wages are very competitive. They run the newest late model equipment and take pride in what they do. L&O Acres and Transport is a family-run business. Come be part of the L&O family. Give them a call at 605-226-0732.
Second portion of Wings Weekly continues on. Again, folks, I'm Jay Kleinknecht, and this time a player is joining me by the name of Nick Comfort. Now, this is a veteran player of Saline, Michigan. Played 19 games after coming from the Warriors 2 years ago. A full season with the Wings last year. Four goals, 12 assists. And, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the hockey portion and what the locker room looks like and all that kind of stuff in just a moment. But before I get any too much further, I wanted to ask you a little bit. And I ran into you at Brown County Speedway and talked to you a little bit about that too. But what was your summer like? What's the so-called off-season look like, for an Aberdeen Wings player, especially, what did you get a chance to maybe go on a little vacation or anything?
A little bit. Went up north in Michigan a couple times to play golf, hang out at the lake, that kind of thing. Get away, relax, especially right after the season. But once you get into June, July, workouts and skating starts to pick up. You also work a little bit. I did some landscaping over the summer. But days are busy, but time flies in the summer, that's for sure.
Yeah, it definitely does. When you talk about, putting in work and getting ready to go back, as you get closer to the season, what kind of workouts do you do? Is it weightlifting? Is it more of a getting the endurance back up or the cardio back up, or what, like what's a workout look like?
It's a little bit of everything, I would
Yeah.
say. Definitely have to keep strength up and get stronger and faster and work on your explosiveness. But also there's a point of like body maintenance and making sure, your hips and groins and joints and stuff like that are healing from the season. So they take a lot of work throughout
grind.
the year. So
Yeah.
it's definitely like early in the summer is rehabbing a little bit as well.
For sure. All right. Well, and if you're watching this on YouTube or somewhere else, maybe on the Wings website or whatever else, of course you could be listening to it on radio as well. But Nick is in full gear. You guys are continuing to work and working hard before we head out to the showcase. Generally speaking, when we have players on, they're in street clothes because they are done with practice, maybe had a meeting or whatever. But this first part of the season like this is, you have two-a-days and you have these kind of long practices and different things like that, a lot going on. What's been, when you come back to Aberdeen and you're kind of thrown right back into the mix, what's been the biggest challenge, for you, a veteran guy, to kind of get back used to, or used to again, maybe is the better way to put that?
I would say the hardest thing, the biggest struggle we've had so far is just building chemistry. And we've got a lot of new guys in here, so obviously getting Reed back and a couple other familiar faces helps build that chemistry, but just need guys to gel a little bit, and that only gets better with time. So I would say early on it's not as good, but as we continue throughout the season, teams should gel and start getting some points on the board.
Well, I was talking to Coach Langer a little bit about the exhibition games, and a chance for you guys to, it did look like the passing was pretty on point, and that there was some pretty early chemistry. That's always a work in progress, but early on, it just seemed like there were some lines, especially some groups that were working well together. What's the feel of the locker room like compared to, say, the last 2 years here in the Aberdeen Wings locker room and here at the ODI Center?
It's a little different for sure. Being an older guy, some of the 06s and 07s that we've got coming in are definitely still learning and need to grow, and the older guys need to lead and be a good role model for those guys. So it's a different perspective for me. But being back at the OD is great. Fans and during the exhibition games were amazing, so can't wait for the regular season.
No doubt. Well, again, a blue liner that I gotta say, I was watching the games. You could just see there were some core groups on that blue line, and you're certainly one of them. And it's not always as easy to score. You're not going to score as many points from the blue line as you might if you were a forward or whatever. But again, 4 goals, 12 assists last year. You feel like you can kind of replicate those numbers this year? I mean, I know it's early on, and I'm not asking you to be psychic, but that, or do you feel like maybe you can surpass that? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I can for sure reach that. Again, towards the end of the year, I had a little bit better instincts, I would say, jumping up or when to stay back, when to jump up. So, I think for sure I can at least surpass that. Well, a little bit. Yeah,
and you mentioned it, with some of the younger guys that are in the locker room right now, and you're a veteran guy, and you've got a handful in here now. As far as guiding new players and so on, it's more than just here in the locker room or on the ice. Sometimes it's maybe in town or whatever else. But I got to ask you specifically about the showcase, because that is a different beast all on its own. When you have 3 games in 4 days, and so many teams, all the teams are there, so many players in and out, bouncing from locker room to locker room, figuring out which rink you're at and all that stuff. Have you had a chance to talk to any of the boys about what to expect?
A little bit, letting them know that it's a lot of hockey in a short amount of time, so you need to take care of your body and stretch and hydrate and and do the right things to win hockey games. And it's definitely more intense just because the outside noise. But we got to focus on ourselves and playing our game.
Interesting thing to me about the showcase is always that the crowds are a totally different thing, and the Wings actually travel pretty well, even though the times of these games might prevent a little bit of a problem in that case, or in this case for some people. But when you look around, and of course we're not as far away as some of the teams like Fairbanks or Lone Star or whatever else, or El Paso. So it probably helps in that case, but
for sure.
But we usually do travel pretty well to the showcase, so that's kind of fun. I don't know. The showcase is always a great time, and it's just kind of overwhelming to walk in that building and just see so much hockey going on, and you can jump from rink to rink to rink. And I always like to try to check out the other Central Division teams too.
Right.
Kind of watch them a little bit. All right, off the subject of hockey for a moment. What is a food that you have tried that you will never try again, that is the most disgusting thing you've ever tasted, whether it be texture or flavor or whatever? Is there something that in your mind that you're like, no way, I will never do that again, dang near threw up?
I don't know. I like to try new things. I'm not a very picky eater, but I guess one thing I would say just from a texture standpoint would be like oysters.
Oh, yeah. And I don't mind them, but I can totally see where you're coming from with that.
I haven't had one in a really long time, so maybe if I had it again, maybe I would have different feelings. But I remember when I was younger, I had one and not a big fan.
My dad used to open these cans. They were smoked oysters, and he put them on crackers. And I didn't mind those. So I was out in Portland, Oregon one time, and I ordered oysters, and they come in the actual shell, and you like slurp it out of there.
Yeah.
That was too much for me.
Right.
I was like, nope, I'm out on that one.
Yeah.
All right, final question here, because I know you got a lot going on. But what's it like playing teams like we talked about with Coach Langer just a little bit ago? Playing El Paso, playing Chippewa. This isn't Bismarck.
Right.
This isn't Minot. You guys, you've played these teams before. You know the buildings and all of that sort of stuff. Is it a little bit different playing teams from out of division?
It is, especially in a new season. You're not really sure what you're going to get, but that's why we watch film and kind of get a little bit of an inside scoop on what they're doing, what their systems are. So it is different, but I think everything at Blaine is a little different than the normal schedule. So
that is true.
We kind of take it hand in hand.
Totally agree with that. All right. Well, speaking of the showcase. Well, folks, Wings are off to Minneapolis, heading there tomorrow, Wednesday, September 25th is the first game. That is against the Chippewa Steel, 7 p.m. puck drop. That is at Super Rink 2 at the Schwann Ice Center. Thursday, September 26th versus the Northeast Generals, 1:45 p.m. That puck drop there at Super Rink 4. Saturday, and the Wings are off on Friday. Saturday on the 28th, they take on the El Paso Rhinos, and that's a 9:30 game, 9:30 in the morning, which is kind of cool to be able to get home somewhat early. But wow, it seems like it'd be tough to get up and get moving for that one. But anyway, you can watch all the games on NAHLTV.com. or listen on 94.1 The Rock, HubCityRadio.com, or The Rock app. You can download that and listen in from anywhere on your mobile device. The next home game for a regular season home opener will be Friday, October 4th versus the Watertown Shamrocks here at the ODI Center. Individual game tickets will go on sale Monday, September 23rd at 5 p.m. And a fan bus the following day. Saturday, October 5th, we travel, have a little bit of a home and home with Watertown. $40 is all it'll cost you to get a ride over there and get a ticket, I believe, included in that too. You can contact Aaron Smith at 605-380-5852 or asmith@aberdeenwings.com to reserve your spot. Pretty cool. Fan bus going to be busy. I got a funny feeling this year with Watertown being as close as it is. Sponsorships and reserved season tickets are now available for the 2024-2025 season. Call Aaron at 605-380-5852 for more information. And for all the latest news and information on the Wings, visit aberdeenwings.com or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. Once again, we thank you. You've been on several times over the years, but we appreciate you taking some time to talk to us a little bit and give us a little bit of insight of what this team is looking like and how you're feeling and what the fans can look forward to. So thanks so much.
Yep, thank you, Jay.
All right, folks, that'll wrap up this week's Wings Weekly.